J.D. Vance is desperate to separate himself from Donald Trump's war with Iran, not just because it is broadly unpopular with Americans, but more importantly to J.D. Vance, it is broadly unpopular within the MAGA base, a base that he hopes will make him the Republican nominee for president in 2028. So J.D. Vance has been quiet. He hasn't been tweeting, which is honestly his favorite thing to do, up until just now, because the move that Iran just made, the threat that they are levying against Donald Trump, who is in retreat, has brought in Vance and sparked the MAGA civil war happening within Donald Trump's White House, because Vance has made it very clear he disagrees with the president, and Donald Trump's reaction to that, not so great. So now Trump and Vance are fighting a war on two fronts with each other, but it all begins with how confused Donald Trump is about what his goals are in this war, of which he has none, and Jessica Tarlov called that out all out before we get to Vance, his fight with Trump, and Iran's threat against him.
Whatever. I mean, Jessica asked a question that a 5-year-old would ask. When is this thing going to be over?
Stop it.
Okay, that's not a serious contribution to the discussion about a war, Jessica, okay?
Oh.
We knew what was the objective, and we're going about it methodically. If you don't know what the goal is, you weren't listening. Let me explain it to you this way.
It started out with regime change and ending the nuclear program.
There was never regime change.
Yes, it was. He said today we already did a regime change because you got Ayatollah Jr.
Stop You're hyperventilating. Relax. Let me explain the war to you. First off, why would Donald Trump lie about talking? That's all he does is talk. I mean, you don't think he's talking? He's talking to everybody. He was talking to Maduro right before he pulled him out of bed. He talks to Putin. He talks to reporters who call him at 1 o'clock in the morning. You don't believe that he was talking to the Iranians? Come on.
I didn't say that.
Of course he's talking. And he bought a lot of time, 5 days, for the 82nd
for the market
Airborne,
to have a good time.
for the 82nd Airborne to get into theater. I mean, that is a crazy conspiracy
And he fired
theory.
the guy, the woman who was going to be in charge of investigating it.
Okay, Jessica, no one knows what you're talking about.
Everyone does who pays attention.
Everybody on Blue Sky. Come on, Jesse.
Everybody knows he bought time to talk, to give peace a chance, but also get the Marines and the paratroopers in the region so we can secure the Strait and possibly secure Carg Island. Now,
let's be clear, there is no strategic objective, and there never was a goal in this conflict. Donald Trump is a fucking moron who got coaxed into going to war by Netanyahu, either because Donald Trump is too stupid, too bloodthirsty, or Netanyahu has too much blackmail on him from Epstein's likely time in the Mossad. Another reason, of course, is Donald Trump just did want to cover up for the Epstein files. Another reason is that he just wants to consolidate and make a little bit more deadly his authoritarian project. These are all reasons, but no, none of them are that Donald Trump had a goal or objective. We have to make that very, very clear. And if there was one, apparently we've accomplished it, which makes all of the talking points of the right moot, I guess, and fits perfectly into why Iran just made the threat that they did.
Well, I think we're going to end it. I can't tell you for sure. You know, I don't like to say this. We've won this. This war has been won. The only one that likes to keep it going is the fake news. I mean, the New York Times, you read the New York Times, it's like we're not winning a war where they have no Navy and they have no Air Force and they have no nothing. And we literally have planes flying over Tehran and other parts of their country. They can't do a thing about it.
So Donald Trump says the war is over. Then why are 3,000 members of the 82nd Airborne descending upon the Middle East? Why are we going to be putting boots on the ground at the cost of more American lives? Why is Donald Trump ramping up his attacks? Why is Israel insisting that they're still going to strike Iran? Well, of course, because they want to prolong this war. That is why. But Donald Trump is both in retreat, but is also in escalation mode. He doesn't know what he wants. And it's why J.D. Vance has tried to stay out of this as much as possible, because he doesn't want to muddy up his hands before a potential Republican primary with Republican voters that I promise you hate this shit. And it is why Iran, and a move that is both a trolling of Vance in an attempt to put a wedge between him and Trump, made this threat against the administration. Iran gives Trump an ultimatum on J.D. Vance. Iranian officials are refusing to talk to Trump's top negotiators. Iran said it is done dealing with the two emissaries President Donald Trump has tasked with leading negotiations in the Middle East. The country, which Trump began striking over 3 weeks ago, is not keen on any more attempts at negotiations with Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, or Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, both of whom were leading the nuclear negotiations with Iran before the war. Iran now says it will only engage in negotiations with Vice President J.D. Vance, according to a report in The Guardian. At the time that Trump launched his deadly war in Iran, the U.S. and Iran were engaged in negotiations over the country's nuclear program. Since the war was launched, the Iranian regime has viewed those negotiations, headed by Witkoff and Kushner, as a front by the Trump administration to trick Iran into thinking they were negotiating in good faith, when the U.S. really just wanted to attack them on behalf of Israel. With the previous negotiating team, there's no chance, one diplomatic source told The Guardian. The Iranian side regards the request for negotiations as another round of deception for the U.S.-Israeli regime to find out a loophole to aggravate the strikes again. The source noted that Iran sees Vance as a more acceptable diplomatic figure than Witkoff and Kushner, especially as Vance is, at his core, a skeptic of U.S. military action in the Middle East. Vance, a Marine who served in public affairs during the Iraq War, has traditionally been wary of U.S. foreign intervention throughout his career in politics, or at least publicly has. If the negotiations are going to have any outcome, J.D. Vance should join, the source told the outlet. With Witkoff and Kushner, nothing will come out of it. We have seen that in the past. Vance isn't just a public skeptic, though. J.D. Vance is desperate to distance himself from Trump's war and is actively leaking to the press that he didn't support it in the first place. So this is just like a major trolling operation by Iran to say, well, we're actually only going to have these negotiations if the guy who didn't want to get involved with this in the first place, J.D. Vance, and who is desperate to not be connected to it, is the one leading the negotiations. And when it all blows up in his face, it will also help to blow up any chance that he has at the 2028 primary, let alone the general election, which J.D. Vance, honestly, almost no matter what Democrat, there are a few exceptions, he went up against, it would be an absolute wipeout in the general election. But Iran also clearly understands that this is a wedge between Trump and Vance, because when Trump was asked whether Vance was participating in these negotiations, he just pivoted away from the question entirely.
Yeah.
I know you said there's a bunch of people from the administration who are negotiating with Iran. There's been reports that the vice president is leading those negotiations. Is that true?
Well, he's involved in them. JD is involved, and Marco is involved, and Jared Kushner's involved, very smart guy, and Steve Witkoff, smart guy, is involved. And I'm involved. I'm involved. Why? I'm going to be so big. Oh, I don't want to talk about it. I'm the president of the United States, Tom, and I'm not going to talk about it. It's beneath me to talk about saving millions of lives, because that's what.
It is funny to see Trump in real time realize that, well, quite frankly, I'm a part of these negotiations, and oh, it's me, yes, I'm negotiating, because he has been telling for the past couple of days a lie about negotiations that aren't actually taking place, his fake peace operation. And so when Donald Trump is confronted with the reality of actual negotiations, he doesn't even consider himself, who would likely be at the center of it. But Donald Trump, of course, lists off Kushner, he lists off Witkoff and Rubio, but he's skeptical of Vance, understanding that Vance is skeptical of him. And maybe Trump is waking up to the fact, as dementia-ridden as he is, that J.D. Vance does want that distance, that J.D. Vance is not supportive of him. And I can tell you that Donald Trump doesn't like that. This is very clear and obvious trolling in an attempt to drive a wedge between them by the Iranians. Why else wouldn't they say, oh, we want Marco Rubio to get involved? Not to say that Marco Rubio is some fucking patron saint, but if you want a more suitable and, let's be honest, legitimate figure negotiating on behalf of the administration, it's not Jared Kushner, who's a goober and a moron. It's not Witkoff, who's a real estate developer alongside Trump. He's an awful businessman. No, it's not those guys. It'd be Rubio. Like, Rubio at least is, and this is not to give him credit, but like, he's a statesman. He was a senator. He's our Secretary of State. He's a real actual person. The pick of Vance, who has been trying to distance himself, is a deliberate effort to get under Donald Trump's skin, and goes to show what Trump has tried to project, that we're the one running things, is just not the case. It's not. Donald Trump is on the back foot, and Iran is setting the terms of this discussion. And it is because everything is falling apart on Donald Trump's end right now. Just take a look at the exploding oil prices, or all the other hell breaking loose that Rachel Maddow broke down right here.
He said he would bomb Iran's civilian power plants, starting, quote, with the biggest one first. That was the ultimatum as of Saturday. He would do that today, unless the Strait of Hormuz opened up. Today rolled around, and even though it's not even yet Taco Tuesday, Trump nevertheless backed down. He announced that he has delayed his planned war crime because there are now new talks, he says, happening between us and the Iranians. The Iranians say, no, there aren't any new talks going on. Suspiciously, Trump won't say who these supposed talks are with, but he says they're definitely going great. And even though he says they're going great, now he's also sending 4,500 sailors and Marines over there, and the New York Times is reporting that he's considering calling up the 82nd Airborne as well. How well are the talks going? However well Trump says these phantom supposed talks are going, watch what he does, not what he says. And if you do that in this inexplicable war, it really seems like Donald Trump has started something he has absolutely no idea how to finish. And aside from everything else this war is doing, there is a very real prospect it is going to crater not only our own economy, but the world economy, with Trump having no plan for that whatsoever.
Donald Trump is obsessed with the idea of leverage and who, as he always says, has the cards. Donald Trump does not have the cards right now. Donald Trump cannot get our allies to come support him in the Strait of Hormuz. Donald Trump does not have public support within the U.S. Donald Trump doesn't have support from his own vice president. So Iran is twisting the knife. We are losing a war we started 4 weeks ago with no goal. That is how quickly Donald Trump and his Midas touch of shit is able to destroy something. And that is why J.D. Vance is trying to stay away. And that is why I think it is an important space to watch whether or not he's even going to be around. How he's trying to stay out of things. We are going to keep up to date with that because I think this might be the most important and interesting dynamic at play right now